Tech Twice Weekly, episode 37. Welcome to Tech Twice Weekly for January 8th, 2015. This is your source for the most important technology news stories and discussion every Monday and Thursday evening. My name is Ben White, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend Eric Fee. Hey man, how's it going?
What's up, dude? Feeling better today.
Good, glad to hear it. Ready for the weekend?
Very much so.
Yeah, it's been that kind of week for me. It's like nothing bad has happened. I just feel extra tired.
Yeah, I've been dealing with insurance today for my medical claim for a vehicle accident early last year. So it's been a trying day.
I think it's the fact that it's winter. It's been like overcast and foggy for 4 days in a row now. I'm just done with it.
I want to go camping.
Make it happen. Give me a date.
All right. Weekend after next.
Give me a different date.
That's what I thought.
All right. You figure out a date that magically works with my schedule, and I'll get into the top stories. All right. So, of course, as everyone knows, CES has been going on this week in Las Vegas. If you didn't know, you either don't care about technos, so thank you for watching the show even though you don't care, or you live under a rock, perhaps. Anyway, today's show we're going to do a little bit differently. We're going to skip out on our tech gadgets because most of the stories are tech gadgets. So we're going to go through our top stories and then wrap things up at the end with a little discussion like usual. Our first story is actually one of our few real news stories this week, this episode. It is about the FCC redefining what broadband is. Currently, broadband it's a term that's been around for a long time, and it was last defined in the Telecommunications Act of 1996. So, back in 1996, if you remember your internet connection, it was slow. Dial-up was king for most residential consumers. Businesses had T1 lines, T3s. I mean, everything was going pretty much over copper except for some extreme circumstances. So back in the day, the definition was really slow. And right now, Wheeler is looking to update that definition to 25 megabits down and 3 megabits up. Now, I'll be honest, I wish the up was a little bit higher. I think 3 megabits is ridiculous. But I know I'm not the average user. Most people are still largely using their downstream much more than their upstream. What do you think, Eric? Is 25 down, 3 up reasonable for the masses?
Still pretty slow, man.
It is slow, but it's definitely more than enough to handle your Netflix stream and handle your online gaming on a console or something, right?
Maybe your Netflix if it's not like HD.
Well, of course, Netflix has adaptive scaling too.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's getting closer.
I mean, I know it's hard for us to look at it because neither of us are considered the standard user.
Yeah, I think that redefining broadband should be something that's actually truly broad. Um, 25 megabits is not a whole lot. It's kind of like
Yeah.
the standard now for your cable internet plans.
Yeah, it's definitely not innovative. It's not like putting this definition in place is immediately going to change the cable scene across the country overnight or anything. My package, I think I'm paying for, I want to say 30, 35 down and maybe 10 or 15 up.
Same, something like that.
Yeah, and I think Comcast just boosted it recently in my area. I'm supposed to have 50 down and probably 20 up. I don't know if that actually even actually happened or went through. I've got to reboot my modem, and that never happens.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, everyone just stop using internet for like 5 minutes while I reboot the modem. It feels so antiquated that that's the only way Comcast can push an update too.
Well, it's the cable modem is a pretty simple device. All things considered, it needs the only time it ever downloads firmware was when it needs it when it boots. So
Well, I guess it's a step in the right direction. I mean, this is better than the original. Originally, the FCC was looking at updating the definition to be 10 megabits downstream, and I guess upping their definition to 25 megabits downstream is better. I think you're right. It's still not good enough. I think it should be somewhere that actually forces cable providers to innovate and bring things up to compete with the global market. But that being said, it's at least going in the right direction.
well, yeah. At least we're saying the word "at least" a lot, which is not a good sign. Um, the DSL providers around my area will no longer be able to call their service uh, broadband.
This is true.
So
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering how that's going to play out for a lot of the DSL providers. Is there a different term they'll have to use in their marketing?
good question.
I mean, is there broadband and narrowband?
That's also a good question.
Sign up for DSL. We're slow. We can't call ourselves broadband anymore.
And we're not going to cost an equivalent price to our speed. We're still going to charge
Right.
more than we're worth.
Oh well. I mean, at the end of the day, we're just stirring the pot. Nothing's actually really changing here. Nothing's going to innovate, and it still doesn't fix the problem of competition in the marketplace and the cost of internet service in the United States for the service being received.
Indeed.
Yeah, none of this addresses the actual issue. It's all just kind of pandering. All right. Well, our next story is a little more positive. I feel a little better about this story. We were talking earlier about this. Intel announced at CES a, I guess, computer stick. That's what everyone's calling it. And what it is the little dongle that attaches to the HDMI port on your television. And there's going to be two versions for $149. One will come with Windows 8.1, and it the specs are interesting. If you get the Windows 8.1 version, you get 2 gigabytes of RAM on board and 32 gigabytes of eMCC storage. And it comes running a Bay Trail processor. It's a quad-core Atom, normally meant for tablets. Now, if you get the lower price version for $89, that gets you 8 gigabytes of storage, 1 gigabyte of memory, and it runs Ubuntu Linux. Now, we were arguing earlier whether this product was actually even reasonable. Was this something that consumers would actually even use? Is there enough power and oomph in here to make it something worth buying? Because for a Windows 8 system, 2 gigabytes of memory is really low. It's got to be meeting the bare minimum specifications. And it even says in this article here from Tom's Hardware that it's not the stock release version of Windows 8.1. It is a version with Bing that is intended for low-cost hardware devices. So it's some I guess, stripped down version of Windows 8.1. I guess the best way to put it. I don't know. Do you have any interest in purchasing something like this, Eric?
No,
Yeah,
I
just not a device you'd use.
it just seems like it doesn't have a lot of use cases. I don't really know what I would install on it that I can use within 1 or 2 gigs of RAM on a standard x86 base machine. Um, I have a Chromecast that will play a large number of video and other services on my television. I also have an Android, uh, a little Android dongle, which will also do quite a bit of TV based stuff. And they were both significantly cheaper. I think like I got some Chromecast for like $30 or $35, and the Android dongle thing was about the same price. And it's not exactly the smoothest thing I've ever used, but it'll still do Android uh, stuff, and you can still get those kinds of things for much cheaper. And although the hardware is not nearly as competent, Android uses less anyways. So Android works better in those lower spec machines anyways. So
That's an interesting point. I wonder if you could find a way to actually run Chromecast OS on this.
I don't see why you would want to. You'd be spending $110 more than an actual Chromecast.
Well, Chromecast doesn't run Chromecast OS. I guess it's not Chromecast OS. I mean the wrong term, but Chrome OS, the same one that runs on the Chromebooks.
Well, I mean, yeah.
I mean, it seems like the sort of thing somebody would do to see if they could do.
Well, maybe. The Linux one sounds like it might have some interesting uses, but at the same time, it's like 1 gigabyte. Man,
Yeah, I'd be more inclined to buy the Windows version and format it and put Linux on it.
if you can.
I'm sure you can. I mean, it does have USB input, and it is a computer. I mean, so you should be able to potentially boot off a USB stick.
Maybe. There are Android USB sticks that you can use Linux on as well. I don't know, man. It just seems to me like it's not that useful. Um,
I'll be honest, I'll probably pick up one of these if I can get my hands on one, especially if I could catch one on a sale somewhere. Maybe a holiday sale, like a President's Day sale, or one of those stupid things where they put these out. But I can see some uses for it. I, you're right, though. I don't know if most people would find a use for it. I think this seems like a geek toy that some people are going to have fun coming up with homebrew projects for, but isn't going to have a regular consumer application.
there are
There's no
plenty.
mass appeal here.
There are plenty of the of smaller computers that they may not fit on an HDMI port, but they're still going to be able to fit behind your TV or whatever in some
Right.
shape or form.
Well, you can always buy an Intel NUC and run a HDMI cable from it to your television,
Yeah, exactly.
and you're going to get way more productivity out of that. I mean, the NUC is going to run Steam games. You aren't going to run anything from Steam on that. But maybe you want to plug that computer into this new monitor from Acer. Segway. Um, PC Gamer is covering Acer's release of a new monitor that they debuted at CES, and this monitor, I have to get my hands on one. It runs at 144 hertz. It is G-Sync, and it's an IPS monitor. This just seems beautiful. It's a 27-inch display offering a 178-degree viewing angle, and it runs at 2560 by 1440 using NVIDIA's G-Sync technology to smooth frame refreshes. What do you think? Do you have any interest in something like this?
It depends on how expensive it is, and it's probably going to be way above my pay grade.
I mean, it's offering, let's see, does it say, yeah, 1 millisecond response time, which is great. But you're right, no prices have been dropped yet. It's supposed to come out in March, but Acer has not mentioned price at all.
Yeah.
But say this comes in at the $200 mark.
You mean
Would
five
you?
hundred dollar mark?
What's that?
You mean the $500 mark, right?
Well, to be fair, I don't even know what a 27-inch normal monitor is going for.
IPS, $100 to $200.
Let's see, so yeah, Dell 27-inch widescreen, $250.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
You can get a G-Sync monitor, a 24-inch G-Sync monitor from AOC comes in at $499 at Best Buy.
Yeah, this monitor is going to cost between $500 to $1,000.
Yeah, maybe it's going to be a little pricier than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It's
I'm looking here at a list of G-Sync compatible model monitors that are on the market right now, and the cheapest is a BenQ 24-inch monitor coming in on Amazon for $539.
the Acer 27-inch 1080p G-Sync for 600. So yeah, it's gonna be $1,000 monitor, man. I ain't got time for that.
You don't need your monitor to cost as much or more than the computer powering it?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've had the same inexpensive LCDs for the past like six or yeah, 5 or 6 years, and I want to replace both of them pretty badly, but I'm kind of finding it hard pressed to find money to do so.
Yeah. I mean, I found this Acer monitor here. It's not the one they just announced, but it's an Acer 28-inch 4K display with G-Sync. Runs at 3840 by 2160, and it also offers 5 USB 3 ports. Do you need 5 USB 3 ports on your monitor?
Yes.
Well, in that case, this monitor is for you at a smooth $916.30.
Well, since you can't find my Christmas present, you can just pick me up one of those.
I'll buy two while I'm at it.
Oh man,
Okay,
I've only been
so I'm going to
the
put
last
this down in
time.
the I can't afford it, but I really want it category.
My Honda costs less than two of those monitors. My Honda costs barely more than one.
So you're saying buying a monitor that you could instead buy a motorcycle, an entire motorcycle, just doesn't make sense.
Dude, my XL is way more fun than that monitor would ever be. Even though I'm not riding it right now because it's cold as hell.
All right, all right. We will move on. This one, maybe this one's a little more in your wheelhouse. Maserati debuted a new side view mirror. This mirror, instead of being a mirror, actually uses video cameras to capture the side view of your car. It is adjustable. It has a wider viewing angle, so it can actually eliminate the blind spot that a normal side view mirror would have. And it also has a colored bar on the display to indicate how close other vehicles are to you. What do you think? Is it time to ditch the simple side view mirror?
No, I'm being so direct today. I don't know if these pictures are doing it justice, but it looks like crap.
The quality of the video in the pictures does look pretty terrible. I can't imagine that that's actually production ready.
Well, not only that, but side view mirror in a car doesn't. You don't have a blind spot if it's adjusted correctly. And by adjusted correctly, I mean you can't see your car in it at all. But most people angle the side view mirror so they can see the edge of their car. And it's like, yeah, that's great, except for now you're creating a blind spot for yourself where you can't see. You need to
I've
push it.
never understood why people want to see their own car in the side view mirror, but you're totally right.
It's, I don't know, comfort? Who knows?
Is the back of your car going to disappear while the front's hurtling down the freeway?
Well, don't ask me, man. Mine are adjusted correctly. I don't have any blind spot. I never worry about cars being next to me because I look with my freaking head.
Right. That's been the thing for me. Like I see a lot of this with the extra wide rear view mirror and these giant side view mirrors. I'm like, I just turned my head for a quick second and then back on the road.
Head check, man. You got to. It's important.
That was standard basics driving 101.
Well, I'll tell you, if you want to know what it feels like to have really crappy mirrors that don't ever show you anything, ride a motorcycle. Mirrors on motorcycles are practically useless.
They're almost decorative, aren't they?
Pretty much, you have to look everywhere every time you're going anywhere because mirrors on a motorcycle are typically not very good. Byron mirrors are great. I just, don't have any.
Well, to be fair, on a motorcycle, you have to look out for others because you know they won't look out for you.
That's right. You become a big stain on the ground if you don't keep your head on your shoulders.
Right. It's not like you have a couple tons of metal and plastic wrapped around you.
And advanced safety equipment.
Well, in some cars. Your Jeep is just metal and plastic.
It's got airbags, bro.
Oh, I'm impressed. I didn't think it actually had airbags.
It's a 97. It's got all that stuff there.
Driver and passenger?
Correctamundo.
Wow. I'm impressed.
No, side airbags or anything like that.
You shouldn't be getting hit by the side anyway, right?
Well, hopefully I'll be the one doing the hitting at least.
Well, okay. So we're 2 for 2 on the gadgets from CES being useful or relevant.
Plus, yeah, those look like junk.
So,
Maserati too. If you're knowing Maserati, they'd be useless half the time because they'd be breaking and stop functioning.
all right. Well, here's our next real news story sprinkled in the mix. Following up on Firefox's decision to move to Yahoo search as the default search engine has actually boosted Yahoo search's share percentage, but it's nowhere close to catching up to Google.
And it never will be.
Right. I mean, I can understand. I'm sure, in Yahoo's credit, great job picking up the contract. I mean, they need all the search hits they can get, but they're never going to catch up to Google. Just being the default search on Firefox, which already isn't the number one browser, isn't going to do anything to help them be number one. I mean, I think they first would have to, one, have their own search algorithm, not just use Bing, because using Bing is not going to have me search through your search engine. Bing is not an effective search. But I don't know. I mean, do you even consider using other search engines besides Google? I don't even think about other search engines existing.
Not really. Google is just too good at what they do.
Right? It's effective. It's there. It's my default go-to. I don't know. I mean, I've played around with DuckDuckGo once in a while just to remind myself that it exists. But
Yeah,
even DuckDuckGo being privacy focused and all that, which is great, I still go back to Google. I don't care that they know all my search history. My life is in Google's cloud, so what does my search history matter?
I've already given up the idea that I will ever obtain any type of anonymity.
I, for one, welcome my Google overlord.
Take me into thine loving arms.
All right, so that's enough news from the news you already know department. Let's get back to gadgets. The Verge is covering Philips' announcement of noise canceling headphones that don't use batteries. This one's kind of interesting. They actually connect with a lightning cable. So it's paired with Apple right off the bat. I mean, that's a limited market, but I kind of like the idea of powering the headset over the lightning cable. I mean, I suppose you could technically do an equal share through a micro USB port on an Android phone. It still has power coming through it. I don't know if it's enough power. I don't know what the power output on a lightning port is, but I like the concept. I don't like it being limited to Apple. I think that is silly, but I like the concept. Are you a fan of headphone noise canceling in the first place? I know some people makes them feel like they have cotton in their ears.
I actually don't think I've ever used a pair of active noise canceling headphones in my life.
You, depending on your personality, you're missing out. I've had a really nice pair of Sony's that I've been a big fan of. They're battery powered, but they actually, I should say, supposedly put out a sine wave, I think is the word I want to use, to cancel out noise around me. So it has little microphones on the outside that pick up the ambient noise, and then it generates the canceling waves so I don't hear it. And it actually works fairly well. The only noise that really gets through are sudden noises because the system doesn't have enough time to learn the sound and cancel it.
Um, I have a really nice pair of headphones, as you can see in this picture, and they are extremely good. They put out an extremely neutral sound, and they have a great frequency response. The price was phenomenal for how good they sound, and they are an open ear, open driver. So there's no backing on the outside of the little driver inside the headphones. So I get lots of noise, and everyone else gets lots of my noise.
Yeah, there's that trade off with that open ears. With these rigs that I'm wearing, they are open ear as well. And I like them, but I've been debating replacing them for podcasting purposes just because that extra noise they put out can sometimes get picked up by the mic and things.
Yep.
So, that all being said, this headset's coming out for $299, which is more money than I ever plan to spend on a headset.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, my headphones cost much less than that, and I have no doubt they sound way better.
Yeah, well, and I mean, arguably, noise canceling headsets aren't about the quality of the audio anymore. You're more looking for that functionality of blocking out the outside world, so you're willing to sacrifice some quality for that. But I don't know, maybe if I traveled more, if I was a constant, regular air traveler, like business traveler particularly, this would probably be a lot more appealing to me to block out airplane noise and stuff like that while I was taking a lot of red eyes. I can see some practical purposes, but not for me.
Yeah, same.
Now, this next story from PC Gamer, this is one I thought you might be interested in, especially because I know your current rig is actually based on a custom built laptop.
Yeah.
And what this is, is a custom, pseudo custom laptop coming from MSI called the GT80. And the GT80 Titan, it basically offers it's a 10-pound laptop, first off. So it's not really a laptop you're going to carry with you very far, but it has an 18-inch 1080p display. It has a mechanical keyboard. It has a touch, not touch screen exactly, but a touch pad for the numpad. And it also features, and this is where the real boost of this thing is going to come from. It has, oh, I guess I should back up. The mechanical keyboard, I'm sure people are wondering, is Cherry MX Brown switches. The switches are important. If you don't know mechanical keyboards, trust me, the people who do know mechanical keyboards want to know that they're Cherry MX Browns. Now, inside this gorgeous laptop, you have access to an M2 SSD slot. You have the RAM, of course, a 2.5-inch expansion bay, and the graphics card. And what makes this laptop unique is all of these parts are designed to be upgradable. By default, the laptop is going to come with a pair of 980Ms running in SLI from NVIDIA. And that's a lot of horsepower in a laptop. Are you running even dual video cards in your laptop?
No, I have a single 5870 Radeon.
Yeah, I didn't think you'd gone that nuts when you built yours.
No.
And actually, now that I mention it, I'm not sure I'm aware of any Crossfire ATI laptops being an option.
No,
Not,
there
I'm
are.
not.
You can get the dual core, like the two cord graphics cards though for NVIDIA and I think and AMD, where it's basically like two GPUs on the same board.
Nice.
You know, double the power type thing. Um, and there are some dual video card laptops out there, and there are dual video card bare bones laptops too. But I don't know. I learned a lesson from building this. It's been kind of a dog, but it's also kept me through these past couple of years, and it will keep me through until I buy another one. But I've learned that if I want to build a compact PC, I should really go mini ITX or something.
Hmm.
And they even said that in the article because you can save a lot of money that with building a really small mini ITX boarded based computer and still get near computer quality. What you really lose out on, you lose out on your memory, you lose out on how many expansion boards you can have. But usually, you can find mini ITX board that take a current generation Intel processor that take 2 gigs of two slots of DDR3 as much as you can fit, and that have a PCI Express slot for a fast video card. So it's very possible. And there are lots of really cool cases out there that are built for mini ITX boards that are like that. So
Yeah, in my current rig, I'm running. I always forget, is mini smaller or micro smaller? Mini ITX or micro ATX, or the other way around?
mini ITX is 10 by 10 centimeters.
And then micro is the step up from that.
Yeah, micro ATX is a different layout, but yeah, micro ATX is definitely bigger.
Yeah, so I'm running the micro ATX in my system, and that's because I wanted the middle ground between a standard sized ATX board and a micro board with no room for expansion. I still wanted some extra expansion slots in there. Since it's a production machine, I wanted to be able to put a good sound card in there if I ended up needing one, or maybe an extra video card if I needed an extra oomph for video rendering down the road.
Yep.
But I mean, this laptop doesn't skimp on anything. It comes with 24 gigabytes of RAM. And this was the one on the show floor. When you actually purchase one, it's a little bit more customizable. But the one on the show floor had 24 gigs of RAM in the laptop, a 1 terabyte 7200 RPM hard drive, two 128 gigabyte M2 SSDs running in a RAID, probably striped, I would assume.
Yeah.
But if you have an extra $3,300 laying around, or in the configuration on the show floor, $3,700, this might be the laptop for you. If you're comfortable dropping $4,000 on a laptop that screams that you will not have to worry about and actually can possibly upgrade, this is the laptop you want to consider. But I'm guessing even yours being custom built to your specifications didn't touch that sort of price point.
No, it didn't, and I have upgraded it since. When I bought it, it had 8 gigabytes of RAM because 8 gig SODIMM chips just came out, and they were way too expensive. I waited a year and I put in 16 gigs of RAM for $100 or whatever.
Yeah, RAM prices always start stupid high, like DDR4 right now, but they drop fairly quickly.
Yeah, I've actually been pricing out DDR4 every so often to get a feel for the price change, and it looks like my next computer will be DDR4 based when I buy one in a few months, which is exciting because I was kind of getting comfortable being relegated to a DDR3 system in the last leg of DDR3 relevance. I was actually thinking about building an AMD system instead of an Intel system, simply because you can build one that's roughly as fast for half the price.
I've heard that. I mean, I'm an Intel loyalist, so I tend to stick with Intel even for the price difference. But many, many people I know have gone the AMD ATI route because for the same dollar for dollar, you can get more performance.
You definitely can, and I don't. I'm not loyal to any single brand. I'll usually choose what I think is the best for my situation. Um, and things are still up in the air. I'll be building a new desktop gaming PC, so I'm kind of waiting to see. Plus, it all depends how much I get back from my tax rebate or tax refund.
Yep, yep. I think a number of people are probably in that boat, just kind of waiting to see how that shakes out.
Yeah.
Well, one thing you could maybe consider for that new computer is Samsung's new SSD. It is. You like that? You like those transitions? That's right, we're segueing through this.
The segue.
Of course, I guess you ruin it when you make it meta and talk about the segue. But moving on, uh, Samsung's new SSD. Not only is it small, that's great. It runs on a PCI 3.0 interface, but it is super low power. It comes in running at 2 milliwatts, not megawatts, not watts, 2 milliwatts.
Hell, my ASIC's putting out 9.4 watts right now.
So your eSig is putting out more power than this SSD requires.
That wow. Sorry, I just built a new coil and it's cooking pretty good. Especially at only 9.4 watts. Yeah, well, I just use up electricity power for a day.
That's kind of crazy, especially because the drive is marked at running data through it at 2.15 gigabits a second. So that's pretty good. That's its read speed. It's set to write at 1.55 gigabits per second on a PCI 3 port. But of course, with most of these devices, there's really no price, but it's aimed at the laptop market. And right now, the other big question, of course, as you should consider with any hard drive, is what its life expectancy is. It's going to have a 3-year warranty, but the previous iteration of this from Samsung was apparently rated for 73 terabytes written, which is about 40 gigabytes a day within the 3-year warranty. So, for most average consumers, that's a lot of wear and tear. I mean, you don't want to put your, I guess, don't put your Windows page file on this sucker, but otherwise. But what do you think? I mean, do you think the idea of something like this is realistic? Because, I mean, technically you could slap this sucker in a PCI 3 port on a PC.
Man, I've been using the same SSD for years now. People, when I bought it, people were like, "Oh, "We better watch out, man. Them SSDs, they wear out." And it's like, nah, man. All the health checks I've done and all the smart and all that stuff say that they are doing amazing. The one I bought with my laptop like 4 or 5 years ago, still kicking ass.
I've had 3 SSDs go bad on me, all within a ridiculously short period of time. And so I don't blame the SSD. I mean, the technology at any rate. I blame a bad batch or a bad, I've had bad luck. All of them were replaced under warranty. They're actually OCZ drives. And OCZ originally replaced the first one that failed. The replacement failed. The replacement's replacement failed. And on the fourth drive they gave me, it's been running ever since. No problems. So I think you're right. I think, yeah, if you're putting SSDs in a server cluster that are going to get written to and read from over and over and over and over and over and over, yeah, you're going to have some SSDs die. But consumers aren't going to experience that, at least not from read writes.
Yep.
Of course, going back to Monday's story, whether or not I almost said humans, whether or not consumers will be putting SSDs in their home servers anytime soon is a whole nother discussion. But 2015, the year of the SSD.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right. Well, the next story up here is from CNET, and I thought this one would pique your interest a little bit, just because it's about Volkswagen. Anything that says Volkswagen, I assume you're interested in. I don't know if that's true. Um, but that being said, Volkswagen is coming out with new haptic feedback touchscreens and touchless gesture controls for their center consoles. This means you can adjust the sound balance. You can adjust, I guess, probably heater controls, AC, all those little details using gesture based. What do you think? Is it time to have the in-car technology come to the future?
Eh, cars are getting some pretty fancy electronics in them nowadays, but I guess I'm kind of a minimalist as far as my car tech goes. I don't think there's anything wrong with having high tech cars, but at the same time, it's like I just kind of want a radio with a button or two.
Yeah, I mean I can see that, and I mean some of the pictures here are pretty crazy. Like the there are touchscreen buttons for launch control, shift lights, boost, and exhaust. I mean, you're much more into the performance of the car than I am, but are those things you really need accessible at the push of a button?
Maybe. Um, I don't know. I've never had a car with launch control. I've never had with a car with electronically controllable boost. Um, I've never.
Oh, what are those actually controlling? Because to me, those words don't mean anything in relation to reality.
Um, Basically, some cars with turbochargers have a let's call it boost controller, which alters the amount of maximum boost that can be generated by the turbocharger, which means the maximum horsepower. Launch
Wouldn't you
control.
just want that all the way up, all the time?
That's how you blow your car. That's how you blow your motor up.
Oh,
Launch control is a way to have the car help you launch from a stop position, like if you were drag racing or whatever.
or
Um,
just coming off the line at a stoplight?
yeah, not really. So basically, with launch control, you activate it, and um, different systems act different ways, but effectively, it allows you to just like put your car at the perfect RPM, and it will either control the clutch automatically for you, or control the brake or gas automatically for you, making you stop from a stop as quickly as possible. Um, in fact, the new Corvette has launch control that also has um, uh, throttleless shifting, so you can just um, if you just leave your foot all the way in the gas, and you can just clutch and shift through your gears really fast. So not only with launch control, but to keep going. It's cool stuff, but it's really hard in your car too. So it's not something you're gonna do all the time, and it's neat. But I mean, good clutch control and good throttle control, you still can launch yourself pretty effectively the old-fashioned way.
So basically, considering the fact that I assume you have no plans to buy a brand new Volkswagen off the lot, that should one land in your lap, you'd probably really appreciate these upgrades. But shy of that, you're not interested. You don't feel like you're missing out.
Pretty much. I got my own Volkswagen that I gotta fix anyways.
I wonder if you could retrofit one of these suckers.
Probably a lot of money and time.
Do you think it'd be worth even doing it if you could?
No.
It's more gee whiz, bells and whistles than practical. Is that what it gets down to?
Golf R's got a lot of horsepower for a 2.0, and it's a really cool little car. And I mean, I wish I was in the position where I could buy a brand new car, because if I could, that's the one I would probably buy. But it's just like, man, I can so much easier pick up a car that's really quick and fun and costs $5,000. I can save the extra 25, 30 grand to put somewhere else.
All right. Well, here's our last real news story of the show, and this is about AT&T joining. Well, I guess bringing back rollover. This time for data, however. AT&T has begun offering, or actually will begin offering, their data rollover program. Beginning January 25th, all new and current AT&T Mobile Share Value customers will automatically receive the rollover data feature at no additional cost. And what's different about this compared to T-Mobile's Data Stash program they started last month is that AT&T's data rollover will only let last month's data roll over. So this is going to be more to prevent you from getting an overage charge than it is from letting you actually stash data. So say you have a 5 gigabyte plan. In January you use 3 gigs. Well, next month, if you use 6 gigs, you're covered. But that extra gig is just going to disappear into the ether. So it's not like AT&T's minute rollover where it lets you create a pool of hundreds and thousands of minutes that expire after a year of their being added to the pool. I mean, to me, this just sounds like marketing BS. So they have something to compete against T-Mobile in advertising, and they don't look like they're getting whipped. What do you think? I mean, does that seem about right to you?
Yeah, I have to agree. Also, the fact you can't get overage charges on T-Mobile in the first place. So,
That's a good point. Even because T-Mobile's is rolling over high-speed data into your stash, whereas AT&T, you just got the same data speed, and then when you run out, they just start charging you more money.
yeah, I can say that the being throttled in T-Mobile sucks because you can barely use your phone. Like, you can't really even like watch YouTube videos, but you can still get the very basic, which is like navigation or chatting or Facebook updates or whatever. Um, but the whole T-Mobile stash thing is going to be great because in a few months I'll have a couple of gigs rolled over that can just chill and I'll probably use sometime. Plus, they gave me 10 gigs to start, so I can just start like going crazy right now. I don't even care.
Just turn your Wi-Fi off. Screw it.
What am I going to do with all these gigabytes? No, it's great. I'm really happy with basically the free feature they just gave me. That's going to basically mean I'll never ever end up on their throttle. I'll never end up throttled again.
Yeah, I mean that's the way it sounds. And I'm actually really disappointed in AT&T's implementation of this. It it's not even trying to hide how bullshit this is.
Well, it's like they bought Singular, the company that made rollover, that made that a feature that made people realize, that brought them huge customers, that brought us because we were used to be on Singular back then,
Mm-hmm.
and then we went with AT. When we just stayed with AT&T when they switched, and that was okay for a while.
Yeah, until the prices went up.
Yeah, exactly, for nothing, and then
Oh, here's the
they
same service. We're just going to charge you more.
well, not only that, but their service actually got worse over time.
Yeah.
Dropped calls became a big problem. When the iPhone hit, they were just saturated for years. You could barely use any of their services. It
Mm-hmm.
was a problem. That's when I originally went to T-Mobile the first time, and it was again less money for better service. And I had left T-Mobile for a while, went to Verizon, and I was really happy with their service, but they were just way too costly.
Yeah.
And then now that I'm back with T-Mobile, I'm just like, why did I even leave? It's just so
R-
good.
right. Yeah. No, I mean, I would love to be with Verizon. I have. I mean, I am so happy running under Ting right now. But I, given a choice, I would be on Verizon because they have a stronger network. It's better coverage. But I don't want to pay for it. I don't think what Verizon's asking for the additional coverage strength is worth it.
Agreed.
I mean, if I was a business, I guess I'd feel different. I'd want that broader coverage. But as an individual, screw it. I'm much happier paying Ting or T-Mobile or anybody who's going to charge reasonable fees for the amount of data and service I actually use.
Roger that. Yeah.
All right, so screw AT&T, check. All right, the next gadget we've got here isn't even a real gadget yet. Um, the next web is covering a story of a marketing company that built a website that allows you to demo the Apple smartwatch before it's even available on the market. The demo and the website itself is demoapplewatch.com, and it's pretty slammed right now. It took me 4 or 5 reloads to actually get the page to come up and load, but it's pretty cool. It lets you try out the Apple Watch. It's fully functional. I mean, aside from the fact that you're not touching the phone, but your mouse pointer acts as your finger. And it's kind of interesting. I'm still mixed on it. I mean, I mixed on the entire idea. I opened a thing. But I don't know. I'm still torn. I want to like the Apple Watch, but by liking it means I'd have to get an iPhone, and I do not want an iPhone. And I actually bought myself a Pebble Watch that I have been exceptionally happy with, that does everything I need. They just recently included Android Wear features in a recent update. But if you're interested in the Apple Watch, if you're in that Apple ecosystem, you should check this out. Make sure that this watch is going to do what you think it's going to do. And we've talked about this before. You're not all that into the wearable movement much, are you?
I am tentatively interested. I like the idea of a smartwatch simply to give me better navigation and phone control while I'm riding my motorcycle. Just to see what the hell, because I can tell when someone's calling me, but I can't tell who it is until I pull over, stop the bike, pull my phone out, take my gloves off, and then look at it. So it's like
Sure, sure.
it'd be nice if I could tell when I get a text message, maybe what it says. If I get a uh, call, I know who's calling me. If I'm trying to get navigation to know when and how far to the next turn and which direction, so on and so forth.
Well, I mean, as far as touching your phone goes, you should just get some of that conductive thread and stitch it into the fingers of your glove.
No,
Okay.
the glove fingers are really nice leather, and I can't stitch them into my cold weather gloves because that would break the waterproof seal.
Ooh, yeah, no, that's no good.
No thanks. Like that does not sound like a good idea.
Yeah, no. I mean, if they're just leather, I guess no big deal. But if they're treated leather, you don't want to mess with it.
I'd rather leave my gloves the way they are. They're perfect.
Eh, I don't know. I'd still stick thread in them myself, but that's just because I would probably wouldn't want to take off my gloves because if I have my gloves on, it's probably cold.
You learn how to deal with it. My gloves can kind of work, but they're not very good. Either way,
But
smartwatch sounds nice for those things, but until I don't know. I just don't have the money to spend to even try it out. It's an
yeah,
expensive gamble.
yeah. I mean, like I said, with this guy, the Pebble, it's got the functionality you're looking for built into it. It's not touchscreen, so it doesn't need to be conductive or anything. This is the Pebble Steel, so it has the buttons on the side to control it, and it gives me a quick couple of words from text messages when they come in, and I can see an alert for who's calling to decide if I care. So I think the technology is going to get where you want it, but it's probably not there yet. All right, our last topic for the day is covering the new tech spec, I guess. It's a media spec, Super MHL. It is a new specification. I don't really know what else to call it. It's from the MHL consortium, and what's special about it is it's the first audio video specification with support for up to 8K video processed at 120 frames per second. Now, of course, nothing uses this. It just got set up as a spec, but I like the potential that it offers because this would support seven let's see, 7680 by 4320 at 120 frames per second, also carrying 40 watts of power and can power multiple displays in a single device. And it's reversible, just in case you needed some other cool feature. It's a 32-bit connector, and this is probably going to be the wave of the future. I mean, I think this has a lot more potential than Thunderbolt. I think this could technically surpass HDMI in some use cases. But how long until we need to worry about 8K video, do you think?
That's a good question, but the best way is to get started with it now.
It's
I like.
true. I mean,
Sorry, go on.
I was gonna say it's better to have the technology and not need it than have 8K video out there and no way to get it from the source to the display.
Yeah, I like these some of these connectors, and I think that that's better. The problem with Thunderbolt is right now it's an Apple thing. No one else really cares to support it, and it's not as useful as people seem to think. Um, Technically, uh, some Thunderbolts support multiple displays. Like my MacBook supports two displays for its Thunderbolt. How do you connect two displays to one Thunderbolt port? You don't, unless you have an Apple Cinema display with a Thunderbolt chain in it. And yeah, I don't got money for that. Even if I did, I probably wouldn't buy it. I'd probably go for that super duper thing.
Right, right. If you're buying ridiculously expensive displays, you might as well buy a better display than just a 30-inch cinema display.
Right. And um, other than that, you're kind of screwed. There are some Thunderbolt like hubs and other things, but they don't really work the way you expect them to, and they don't allow you to multiply them or connect multiple displays. So it's just like, well, okay, that's a useful feature. Not really.
Yeah, it's a potentially useful feature.
Yeah, if there was some kind of cable I could get that would split Thunderbolt out for two displays, that'd be freaking awesome. But there isn't, so it's not.
Well, there is. There's a great tool that splits it. It's called an Apple Cinema display.
Yeah, right. So it's like no matter how useful that is, no matter how much potential it has, I'm never going to care. And seeing how Thunderbolt's being used, I'm like, well, USB 3 is better.
Right, right. I mean, personally, I'm hoping with the introduction of this, we'll start seeing more MHL ports on things because right now it's kind of hard to find MHL ports except on very specific devices.
Like your Nexus 5.
Yes, the Nexus 5 is one of the few devices that supports MHL.
Yeah,
It's actually kind of surprising how many things you can that this USB port on the bottom of the Nexus 5 actually is supports.
so yeah, it'd be nice if there was an MHL port on your like laptop, for example.
Right.
But whatever.
Well, and I think they're going to become more common. I think MHL stands to replace HDMI, really, but
No, no, I don't think so. As long as HDMI is used for HDCP, then it's not really going to get replaced.
that's a fair point. I didn't even think about that. MHL doesn't pass HDCP.
So yeah, it's about content protection bogusness.
Yeah, that's going to be a problem.
Well, kind of. I really think that the MHL standard is going to keep. Obviously they've been upping their game, and it will probably keep getting better, and MHL support will grow, and so on and so forth. And it's not that big of a deal, but it'd be cool.
All right, well, I'm going to add this to the wish list then.
Yeah.
All right. Well, those are all our CES stories. I just kind of cherry picked what I thought was interesting from CES. I mean, obviously, so much more was announced. There's been tons of car announcements and products that are never going to see the light of day. In fact, many of the things we mentioned may not even see the light of day. I know a few of them have March release dates, but there's still plenty of time to kill it. That being said, I'm going to put it down in the make a red book prediction, as it were. This time next year, I'm hoping to be reporting from Tech Twice Weekly live at CES. What do you think? Is that realistic?
Sure it is. Make sure to give me a ticket while you're at it.
All right, we'll make it happen. Um, so, with that pie in the sky dream, we're going to go ahead and jump into our discussion story. I know we're running a little bit long tonight, but it's a discussion I do want to have still. And this is from Ars Technica. They're covering this concept called a super cookie. And most people, I think, now are starting to get familiar with cookies in internet browsers that store a little bit of user information and pass it back to the server when a server asks for it. And right now, there's a lot of debate going on about cookies and privacy concerns. Some websites declare when they're using cookies to track information, and for a while it was a big push on cookie remover tools so you can keep your browser clean of tracking cookies. And there's the whole do not track movement that you can choose optionally to request that you're not tracked. And of course, that also requires the server to care. But this new concept called a super cookie basically allows tracking your browser activity regardless of you choosing not to be tracked. This can result in even private browsing mode on Firefox or Chrome or IE to still provide data that can be mined from your browsing habits. What do you think? Are you concerned about your privacy from your internet browsing? Are you really big on making sure you aren't tracked and your cookies and all that, or have you given up?
Well, I try my best to be optimistic and to try and hope for some sort of privacy, especially when in incognito mode and all that stuff, which is what this is talking about. But unfortunately, it's really easy to fingerprint people with or without incognito mode, with or without cookies. There are other things like the ever cookie, which has been talked about. There's this HSTS cookie mechanism, which is will probably be patched eventually. But
Yeah, it should be worth noting that the super cookie is technically taking advantage of an exploit that's been discovered.
yeah, but still, like even if you can fingerprint people fairly well, if they ever visit your page more than once or browse around in it, you can if you keep good logs and tracking, you can usually fingerprint people anyways. Um, their platform information, their browser information, uh, their IP address. You can use information from them just coming to your website like any normal folk. You can use it to fingerprint them and track their movements again when they come back, even if they're come back from a different browser. You can, use good sleuthing methods to connect it up. Um, you know, heuristics even if you want to get super fancy. So I really think that yes, this is an interesting article, and yes, I think that this guy is pretty clever. Yes, I think that it will be patched eventually, and no, I'm not really worried about it.
Yeah, and that was my takeaway from this too, is that this really shouldn't be looked at any different than any other security exploit. It's something you should be aware of. You should be conscious that the fact that your browsing history isn't private, even when you're in incognito mode or any of those privacy modes, the server still gets your information. It's just not tracked across sessions. All cookies that are created are cleared when you leave the private browsing session. So, I think largely this article is important because people don't understand cookies by and large. They hear the word cookie and they know they're associated with privacy and people panic. But there's so many beneficial things cookies can offer as well. The fact that you stay logged into Facebook between opening and closing your browser, that's a cookie. The fact that you load up Gmail and it just logs you in, those are cookies. So there's a lot of practical, reasonable, real reasons to use cookies on the web. But unfortunately, advertisers have also realized they can be used to track you, and tracking you is money in their pockets. So it's going to be a constant back and forth battle. But I don't know, from a programmer standpoint, you've done a lot of web development. Cookies aren't going anywhere, are they?
Not really. And there's luckily there's other technology coming along that is helping mitigate the need for cookies because cookies are a little bit not helpful. Nowadays we have things like local storage and uh, local database and session storage, which help web developers move away from using cookies as they are and using a little bit more full-fledged technologies built into the browser that users have control over, that web developers have more leverage with. We rely less on storing state on our server and having an ID. Um, Cookies can be used to simply do things like a simple uh, token for your login, just to make sure that you're the person we think you are, and that it's not someone else and at your place, or someone hasn't stolen your ID to try and log you in, and we're not saving sensitive data like your username or password to your browser. The fact that the protocol is stateless, but everyone expects their websites to be more like applications that have a complete and comprehensive state. Cookies aren't going anywhere, and you don't want them to. Was the thing. As much as people want to gripe about privacy, you don't want your cookies to go anywhere because then nothing on the web will act like you want. Then every time you visit a website, it'll be like it was the first time you were ever there.
Yep. I mean, there's ways around it with sessions and whatnot, but all of those are temporary. At the end of the day, cookies are the way you end up storing prolonged session data.
Yeah. I mean, there may be something better soon or later or eventually or whatever, but they'll probably have more or worse security concerns than cookies already do. Cookies are so well known and so well understood and so well used that it's just like,
Well, at the end of the day, there's something to be said about trusting the host of the content you're visiting. I mean, you go to Engadget's page, you go to our page, you know, you're going to get cookies. I think our page sets a cookie for Google Analytics tracking, but I'm not selling that data. I don't need your personal information. All analytics data is telling me is where did you come from before you got to my website and what pages did you view on the website, which I only care about because I want to know how to make the site better and make sure the pages that people are visiting are actually good. So there's a lot of good data that can be generated off cookies that doesn't invade privacy.
well, the vast amount of websites and developers and all that usually use these technologies in good faith. They want to make something that is appealing to you and that you want to use. The biggest problem is our reliance on ads, because ad revenue and those iframes that are ads that basically have an embedded web page in a web page. They're the ones that do a lot of the inner browser, inner website tracking. They're a lot of the ones that do the kind of stuff that you wouldn't like. But the fact is it costs money to host a website. It costs money to have someone build that website. It costs money to have someone maintain that website. It has costs money to offer services. All these things cost money, but people want everything to be free. It's like Reddit.com is a good example. Free. You can just log on and use it. But they have a lot of traffic going through. A lot of bandwidth is used. A lot of information is used. A lot of processing power is used, and you don't pay anything for it. So where's that money supposed to come from? Like, if if you paid $1 for all your favorite websites, let's say you could pick the top like 5 or 10. If you paid $10 a month for your favorite websites, and so did every other user who used them, they wouldn't need to have ads. They wouldn't need to track, and those ads would need to track you to make money themselves to pay out to the website, so on and so forth. It's like it it just costs money, and it's hard to expect everything to be free. I mean, Tech Twice Weekly is free. You don't pay money for it. We pay money for it. We have a day job, so we buy all this stuff. and it comes out of our pockets. And we want to provide things that you will like. We want you to listen to us. But remember, it costs money. Like these microphones, these cameras, the time it takes to make the show, to cultivate the show, the stories, the time Ben spends, editing, posting it up online. Um, we use services like archive.org, which are free to us, but it still costs money to someone because they got to host those
Mm-hmm.
files, they got to make the bandwidth available, they have to have developers that make all their software work. It all costs money from the beginning to the end of the chain, but you get it for free. So where's that going to come from? Ads. If we didn't have to have ads, tracking and malicious cookie use and all these things would be a lot less prevalent because no one would care. We don't want to know anything about your personal information unless you want to share it with us, I guess. Um, we don't, we just want you to listen to us and enjoy yourself. We don't want to impose on you or your life at all. But what are you going to do?
Right. And I mean, we're small. Look at sites like news aggregators or news producers like Engadget and Gizmodo, PC Gamer, all those news sites out there. They're putting their news up for free, hoping that you will come read it. And they're making money by putting just a couple of ads on the page.
Well, yeah, I remember those sites also. They have like hire their businesses with they hire people and have employees and have businesses and the business have money and
Yeah, I mean, all these stories coming out of CES, every person is paying for a hotel, they're paying for food, they're paying for the flight, they're paying their salary. They're on the clock covering these releases, these products and gadgets.
everyone presenting them is on the clock too.
Mm-hmm. It's
It costs
all money.
it costs money to go there. It's weird when we think about it, but the idea of the almost all websites we visit are free is really weird when you think about it.
Yeah, because they're only free in essence. They're certainly not free in reality.
No, they cost money to someone, and that money's got to come from somewhere. So what are you gonna do?
All right. Well, we are running long for the show, but I think it was all worth it. We've got some good content we covered, and I wanted to get some of those CES coverage stories taken care of. Anything you want to say before we get out of here for the night?
Money, 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 money.
I like money.
I like money too. We should be friends.
If you don't know that quote, first, shame on you. Second, go watch The Fifth Element.
Idiocracy.
Oh, I just lost geek cred. Sorry.
Jackass.
I was thinking of my other favorite quote. Do you know the quote from Fifth Element?
No, I am not human. I am a meat popsicle. Give me the
I
cash.
guess. What?
Give me the cash.
There you go. There you go. Give me the cash. See why I was on the money trend? I had the right concept, just the wrong movie.
I know you've seen Idiocracy. We've seen it together.
I have seen Idiocracy many a time, and I will watch it many times again. All right, so watch Idiocracy. Also watch The Fifth Element, but watch Idiocracy first.
Watch them both at any time. If you haven't seen them, if you have seen them, watch them again anyway.
Yes.
All right, man.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. This has been another great episode of Tech Twice Weekly. As always, you can find us on the web, techtwiceweekly.com. You can subscribe to the show's RSS feed there, or find a link to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, Blueberry, where all fine podcasts are downloaded. You can also reach out to us on Twitter at techtwiceweekly, or email us, feedback@techtwiceweekly.com. We will not have an episode next Monday, just as a programming note. I'll be watching the Oregon Ducks beating Florida State University in the first ever National College Championship. So go Ducks. But we'll be back on Tuesday next week covering the show. So be a day off, but we'll still be coming to your RSS feed. Anyway, thank you for listening. Have a good evening. Have a good night, everybody.